Hi, this is Jim from Safety Wars. Before we start the program, I want to make sure everyone understands that we often talk about OSHA and EPA citations, along with some other regulatory actions from other agencies, legal cases, and criminal activity. Everyone is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Proposed fines are exactly that, and they are often litigated, reduced, or vacated. We use available public records, news accounts, and press releases. We cannot warranty or guarantee the details of any of the stories we share, since we are not directly involved with these stories, at least not most of the time. Enjoy the show.
This show is brought to you by Safety FM.
And from the border of Liberty and Prosperity, the highway to North, there we go. Yeah, I had to start and restart the show here. Having audio issues. The audio issues, the microphone kept on going over to the camera, not to the board. So we had to do some post-production and things of that nature to get things back on track last night. I don't know, we're gonna be a couple minutes late here getting on, but sorry. I'm back. If you're on the video portions, it's not so annoyed. Being nice. Yeah, I'll try to be nice today, but got some feedback on last night's program. Why are you so angry? Well, we have 119 people, I think, as of airtime down in Texas. We have public officials doing the old duck and cover. You would think that a nuclear explosion was coming out there, you know? They're ducking and covering, like reminiscent in the 1950s. Proverbially. Was I ever involved in duck and cover drill? No, fortunately not. And I say that real fortunate because it probably would have freaked me out as a kid. And it did a lot of kids. So, we have a lot of stuff going on here. And of course, people know that I record the program, so we get a whole flurry, I'm recording the program and broadcasting, so I get a whole flurry of phone calls right at showtime. Jay. Now I know what you have to deal with, right? Right? So, there's a lot of blame that goes around, right, during these things. Duck and cover, and as we know from our human organizational performance talks here, blame fixes nothing. Blame fixes nothing. So now that there are cooler heads prevailing here with everything, we are getting down to the nitty-gritty on... no, people are calming down. And again, here, I had the story right here. We're going to have one hell of a disaster preparedness month here with... coming up. I mean, it's going to be real interesting here. So this is from KSAT.com. It's either a TV or radio station here. Care County leaders not ready to answer questions on delayed code red alert. Wow, weren't we talking about holding public employees accountable? Not so much the employees. Employees are only following the policies that are only following the policies set out by the politicians. Here, that's what we know, right? So it's kind of hard to hold on. All right, so we have a sick family member here. They're texting me. Anyway, public employees, let's not forget about this. They are only following the direction of the politicians, and the politicians that hold them accountable. In a lot of cases, and this is what we're finding out on the federal level, you have a deep state. You have people there who are nameless, right? Bureaucrats, judges, and everything else that do whatever the hell they want out there. I mean, if you've done any work with the federal government, you know this, especially way back in the day, 20, 30 years ago, before this stuff, a lot of this stuff became well known, before people figured out that you could actually put things on the internet and report them. No, the stuff used to go on, nobody would know anything was going on. So this is from KSAT. Carroll County officials on Wednesday declined to discuss why a voluntary emergency system was not activated July 4th until more than an hour after a first responder requested an alert to go out. Yeah, I bet they're not discussing it. With every significant event, with every emergency, there's going to be an after action, meaning a report. Please, y'all, listen to those words. After action, okay? Said Carroll County Sheriff Larry Alaita following a question on Monday morning from KSAT Ernie Zuniga. County dispatch audio obtained through a KSAT source today, Tuesday, confirms the firefighter called for a code red alert at 4:22 a.m. Friday as water-covered Highway 39 in Hunt. Now, this is something we don't normally talk about. Back in the day, it was more one of the hobbies back in the day, quote unquote, back in the day pre-internet, was people would have what are called police scanners. And it seemed like every wrecking crew out there, everybody who had a wrecker, meaning a tow truck, had a police scanner. So they could find out where the local accidents were, and they could go and say, okay, there's an accident on Elm Street, and okay, I'm going to head on over to Elm. I should be expecting that, especially if you had a contract with the police or something like that. You would go out there and you'd, dictate, you try to get ahead of the competition. Another thing that you would go on is since then, they put that all on the internet. There's an app for that, for police scanners. A lot of the police departments have modernized, emergency responders have modernized, and you need a special scanner, is my understanding, because they have what is called a trunk system, where with the digital radios, that became mandatory, I guess, around 13 years ago, you didn't, we won't go into that digital radio, narrow broadcast, that sort of thing. I'm using the wrong words here, but I know scientifically what it was. Now they don't, standard, police scanner may not necessarily work, even though they do work on some things. So you would be able. So what I used to do, whenever I heard that there was going to be a disaster, I would go in, and now under the app, go in and find the local police scanner and hear everything. And with the shootings in Aurora, Colorado, that was the first time I thought of doing that with that movie theater out there, and I got to hear a whole bunch of stuff that wasn't on the news, but it was on the police scanner. So apparently they were able to get a copy of everything, and I imagine not so hard to do. Is there any way we can? And this is what happened at 4:22 a.m. This is the quote: "Is there any way we can send a code red to our Hunt residents, asking them to find higher ground?" The first responder asked. 10-4 standby. We have to get the approval with our supervisor. A county dispatcher replied before telling the first responder water rescue team was en route. The back and forth came amid a flurry of audio as rescuers provided updates on the rising water. Dispatchers relayed information from numerous 911 calls they were receiving. The earliest code red alert KSAT has been able to confirm was sent via text message and phone call to a person with a Hunt address at 5:34 a.m. Friday. The written and audio alerts stated that a flash flood warning has been issued for the location of the person's residence. The Guadalupe River gauge, located in Hunt, had peaked at more than 20 minutes earlier and was no longer recording data, according to the USGS, U.S. Geological Survey. Some survivors in Hunt told KSAT this week they did not receive the emergency alert until daybreak. Hours into this was upsetting. Right, so sort of like after the fact, right, and it goes on and on and on and on. Again, you're relying on systems, and you're relying on phones working, cell towers working, and all this other stuff, versus the old-fashioned, right, the old-fashioned alarm would sound something like this. Hold on, I got it right here. Hold on. Right? You have an air raid siren. I mean, I don't know. We went into this last night. No, what is safety? Safety is adding controls and adding safeguards and adding things in. Right? And resilience. Adding, okay, it's good to have the phones. I have it all the time in my town. Where I own property up in northern New Jersey, I get phone alerts every day there. Hey, this is happening, that's happening. But again, what do you have to do? You have to be near the phone, you have to have a good cell phone connection, you have to have a landline connection. You're not going to get that if you have floodwaters coming, possibly. So what are you going to have to revert to? Radio, right? Or a siren? Something like that. Again, adding capacity. I mean, we've gotten rid of a lot of that capacity back in, way back, around New Jersey. So, for example, Woodbridge, when I grew up, they were on that horn all the time. You can hear that horn way out. Right? About like a mile out, you can hear that horn going off. We didn't have that here. Would have been better. Again, old school, probably the best way of doing this. With this. But there are other more modern things out there. What else we have going on here? Left-wing critics blame Texas flood devastation on climate denialism and warn more to come unless inaction ends. Michael Bloomberg said the tragic floods in Texas were exacerbated by climate denialism. This is off of Fox News' Alex Schlemel. While debate over why Texas floods are so deadly has centered around President Donald Trump's cut to key weather agencies, left-wing critics have also complained that the policy inaction and climate denialism were major factors. As search and rescue efforts continued after the devastating storm swept through Texas on July 4th holiday, former Democratic presidential candidate and New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg penned an op-ed arguing that Texas floods were made worse by climate denialism. Okay, so regardless of what your opinion is on climate change or anything, everybody acknowledges that we would have to go back to like 1820 levels of emissions throughout the world to make up for all the with all the models. I'm just pulling a number out of it. I mean, it's not realistic. And that would be over 30, 40, 50, 100 years where you see a positive impact. That's what the models show. I've looked them up. Maybe not today, but I've been following this since about 1986. So guess what? We have an immediate need for this. Now we could spend trillions of dollars on whatever to prevent climate change. That may or may not work. Or we could spend trillions of dollars on making our communities more resilient and maybe placing these camps in a better location. Maybe not on a floodplain. Maybe building dikes, right? Or slurry dikes, right? Piles of dirt and other stuff to divert water. Maybe we could spend the money doing that. Then we get an immediate bang for our buck here with that. Chris Cuomo slams Chris Murphy for a cheap shot. Suggestion that Trump funding cuts played their part in Texas floods. Cuomo told viewers that Murphy is no longer welcome on his show. One day, News Nation anchor Chris Cuomo blasted Senator Chris Murphy, Democrat from Connecticut, on Tuesday for his cheap shot suggestion that President Trump's cuts to federal funding played a role in the devastating floods earlier this week. We went through this yesterday. There was a response. There were people on duty. Now we have to figure out what went wrong here. Also, what went right. Cuomo accused the senator of taking a cheap shot against dead kids to score political points against Trump and informed his audience that he no longer wants Murphy on the program as a guest. Democratic Senator Chris Murphy, I've been trying to get him on the show. Now I don't want him, the ex-CNN host said. Cuomo noted that the Union for the National Weather Service, which has been critical of Trump's cuts in the past, put out a statement confirming that the NWS was fully staffed at the time of the floods, contradicting Murphy's assertion. Okay, there we go. NASA sends specialized aircraft and technology to aid Texas flood search and recovery operations. High-altitude WV-57 and UAV SAR technology deployed to accelerate emergency response after July 4th disaster. In the wake of the catastrophic July 4th floods that barreled through the south-central Texas, claiming 119 lives and leaving more than 200 people missing, NASA dispatched 2 aircraft to local recovery efforts. NASA's high-altitude WB, man, that's a freaky-looking thing here, right? Look it up. WB-57 aircraft took off from Ellington Field Joint Reserve Base in Houston on Tuesday. Will conduct aerial surveys. The user needs dynamite, standing for Day-Night Airborne Motion Imager for Terrestrial Environments sensor. The sensor will take high-resolution photos of the Guadalupe River and several miles in the surrounding area, which could accelerate emergency response times. The aircraft are responding as part of NASA's Disaster Response Coordination System, which was activated to support the flood emergency response in coordination with the Texas Division of Emergency Management, FEMA, and humanitarian groups. Persistent cloud cover has made it difficult to obtain clear satellite imagery, according to NASA. Right? So, okay, good. I hope it's not too late for these people. Here we have, right, this is from the Associated Press, updated this morning, July 9th. Story by Lindley Sanders and Amelia Thompson DeVoe. Most of the U.S. adults who have experienced major flooding in the past 5 years think climate change was at least partial cause. Okay, that's reasonable, according to polling conducted earlier this year before the deadly Texas floods. But while Americans are largely believe the federal government should play a major role in preparing for and responding to natural disasters, an analysis of recent AP NORC polls shows less consensus about whether the government should be involved in combating climate change to try to keep extreme weather from getting worse. The polls from the Associated Press and NORC Center for Public Affairs Research were conducted in February and June before catastrophic flooding. Polls found that Americans generally had a high level of confidence in the National Weather Service and their local weather report, and most thought the federal government should play a central role in alerting Americans to weather events. That trust can now be undermined as employees face scrutiny, officials face scrutiny over flood preparations and the timing of alerts. Right? About 2 in 10 Americans today had experienced major flooding in recent years, me being one of them. And most see the role for government in tracking weather events And confidence in National Weather Service was high before the floods. That gives you a little bit of context there. Harrowing stories of rescue emerged from Texas floods as crews searched for 160 people reported missing. In the frantic hours after a wall of water engulfed camps and homes in Texas, a police officer who was trapped himself spotted dozens of people stranded on roofs and waited out to bring them to safety. A fellow officer said on Wednesday another off-duty officer tied a garden hose around his waist so he could reach two people clinging to a tree above swirling floodwaters. So I got, a lot of stories of heroism here. But why don't we have stories of prevention? Right? People are heroes for rescuing people. But what about people on the other side? Maybe if we had a better job, even as in the safety community, if we did a better job of heroic acts before an accident, of managing things properly, of having that all-important backbone. Right? That's what we need here. Some backbone. What else do we have here? Historic site. We're going to save that until after the break. Let's see. All right, we're going to get into all that stuff after the break. So we'll be back in a minute here.
Safety Wars is streaming now. SafetyFM.com.
Hold on, everybody.
In the professional safety community, communication and planning are just a few keys to your program's success. The question many practitioners have is, where do I start? Dr. Jay Allen, the creator of the Safety FM platform and host of the Rated R Safety Show, has built a global foundation to help you along the way. Go to safetyfm.com and listen to some of the industry's best and most involved professionals, including Blaine Hoffman with the Safety Pro, Sam Goodman with the Hop Nerd, Sheldon Primus with the Safety Consultant, Jim Pozell with Safety Wars, Emily Elrod with Unapologetically Bold, and many others. As individuals, we can do great things, but as a team, we become amazing. Dial into safetyfm.com today and surround yourself with a powerful force of knowledge and support.
Hi, this is Jim Posel, your safety warrior. You know what drives you nuts? I mean, absolutely unhinges me. I see all this stuff on social media. I get stuff in the mail, the junk mail, and everything else. And hey, we have a health and safety program for you. We have a health and safety process for you. Just throw on some money, 15, 20 minutes later, you have a complete health and safety program. No assessments, no professionalism, no professional checking out your stuff. That is where we have Aronite. They fill that gap between all these programs and having a professional in place. Right? Let's say that you're an office, a financial service company, a retail chain, a tech company, you name it. The last thing on your mind might be what your responsibilities are to your employees, the company, and, of course, the law. All about safety, right? We forget about the law. It's not only protecting your assets, protecting your people, and your people are your most important asset. It is also following the law. Aronite has a whole worldwide reach, just like Safety Wars. They have a thorough and comprehensive auditing system that will identify what your needs are and then help you write the plan or the program you need. And then, finally, they don't abandon you like all these other online platforms. They actually help you administrate it. We've all been there. We don't know what to do. We don't know what the laws are. We don't know any of this stuff. If you need answers quick, you come to me, Jim Posel, or you go to Aronite. Visit them on the web at aronite.com. Tell them Jim Posel from Safety Wars sent you. See you out there in the world of safety.
Safety Wars, a relentless pursuit into the high-stakes world of workplace safety and regulation. Jim Posel, a seasoned veteran on a mission to protect the vulnerable, the diligent, the everyday worker, in an environment where risks run high and lives hang in the balance. Welcome to the Safety Wars show on Safety FM. Follow us on social media as Safety Wars. Listen to us on your favorite podcast network as Safety Wars or visit us at safetywars.com.
Is your safety training old, stale, and hackneyed? Is your safety trainer still preaching a warped version of behavior-based safety? How about safety training that is designed to actually address and assess your hazards and liabilities and is not standardized baloney from generations ago? Contact the Safety Wars team at safetywars.com or call me, Jim Posel, at 845-269-5772. Remember, if you are receiving this message, you are the solution to unsafe workplaces.
Safety Wars is streaming now.
SafetyFM.com.
Oh yeah, we are looking right now at, I'm overlooking the parking lot of the hotel I'm in, and we have big lightning bolts coming down. It's great. Oh, there's another one. Yes, remember back in the day, your mom used to say, Jimmy, get away from that TV. It's a thunderstorm. It's going to blow up. Or get off the phone. That was a good one. I can't be on the phone. I'm on, it's a lightning storm. I don't know how many people actually got struck through the phone. I'm sure it happened. But I don't know. Maybe it's one of those old wives' tales. So let's do a share screen here. Right, we're only allowed to share on. I think we could get away with it, but I don't want to tempt it. Government websites here. Fact sheet. President Donald J. Trump, this is from WhiteHouse.gov, ensures accountability and prioritizes public safety and federal hiring. Right? And this is from a fact sheet from 2 days ago. Right? Establishing, I don't know if this was in response to what happened over the weekend or not. Establishing policies that drive accountability hiring. Today, President Donald J. Trump signed a presidential memorandum that requires many federal hires to be approved by an agency's presidentially appointed leadership to end incompetence and equity over results. This prohibits filling vacant federal civilian positions or creating new ones without approval from agency leadership with certain exceptions. Exemptions from the policy for immigration enforcement, national security, and public safety positions shall remain, which apply to roles like Department of Veterans Affairs, medical personnel, food safety inspectors, firefighters, air traffic controllers, and National Weather Service employees. This memorandum provides that the policy applies through October 15, 2025. The memorandum allows hiring that is directly approved by senior agency leadership appointed by the president. This ensures democratic accountability, right, that's with a small d there, rather than hiring being driven by the bureaucracy, and that hiring decisions are based on agency priorities. It also clarifies that any hiring of employees must be consistent with the merit hiring plan issued by the administration on May 29th, 2025. Right? Promoting fiscal responsibility and government efficiency, President Trump is strengthening accountability hiring practices to ensure taxpayer dollars are used efficiently. In the last 2 years of the Biden administration, government was directly responsible for the creation of more than 1 in every 4 jobs. President Trump is committed to reversing this trend by prioritizing private sector job growth and maintaining oversight of hiring by presidentially appointed leadership. This ensures the federal workplace remains focused on essential functions and fully aligned with administration priorities. Here, hold on. What do we got here? Let's see how long it takes for the Lightning app to catch up here. Lightning bolt, I'm just out of curiosity. Reforming the federal bureaucracy, the American people elected President Trump to drain the swamp and to end ineffective government programs and empower government without achieving measurable results. The government wastes billions of dollars each year on duplicative programs and frivolous expenditures that fail to align with American values or address the needs of the American people, and it goes on and on and on. So, with that, you could go and check that out with that. U.S. Department of Labor news. Secretary Chavez de Remer announces $5 million in Wanto grants. What is a Wanto grant? We'll figure it out, maybe. To expand apprenticeship opportunities and good-paying jobs for women. U.S. Department of Labor Secretary Lori Chavez de Remer today announced a $5 million fund opportunity for up to 14 grants to attract and retain more American workers in registered apprenticeship programs and high-growth industries like manufacturing, construction, and cybersecurity. Administered jointly by the Department's Women's Bureau and Employment Training Administration, the Women in Apprenticeship and Non-Traditional Occupations Grant Program supports community-based organizations in their efforts to recruit, train, and retain more women in registered apprenticeships and high-demand occupations. This announcement follows a thorough evaluation and realignment of the program, which will ensure Wanto grants help the department achieve President Trump's President Trump's goal of reaching 1 million new active apprentices. Under President Trump's leadership and our shared commitment to transparency, right, so yeah, I'm watching this. We're at about 3 minutes behind or more on this Lightning app that I have going on here. That's supposed to tell you when lightning is coming. Under President Trump's leadership and our shared commitment to transparency, the department has been reviewing all taxpayer-funded grants to ensure that they fulfill their intended purpose and help the administration achieve our workforce goals. Right? That's why these Wanto grants are specifically tailored to bolstering the number of women in our registered apprenticeship programs. Right? So, okay. Interesting. Now, I'm a little bit annoyed over this. Doing much better than yesterday, but the U.S. Department of Labor cites the Orlando Aerospace Facility for safety health failures after fire injures workers. The U.S. Department of Labor has cited an Orlando target missile manufacturer for exposing workers to fire, burn, and inhalation hazards after a December 2024 fire at its facility, hospitalizing 2 employees and injuring others. Investigators with the department's OSHA have found that 2 employees of a company were severely burned and others sustained injuries from burns and smoke inhalation while they worked on a missile component. OSHA also determined that the employer exposed other workers to burn and inhalation hazards from incorrectly stored and handled explosives and from failing to classify the physical hazards of a highly reactive chemical. The company was cited with 1 willful and 6 serious violations, with proposed penalties totaling $262,451. Now, I went and I went on the establishment search. They have not updated it to reflect this thing, right? To update this. They still haven't done this, right? And let's head on over to the EPA. EPA stops contaminated water by slaughterhouse after public complaints in Monroeville, New Jersey. This is in South Jersey. The U.S. EPA collaborated with New Jersey DEP to respond to public concerns about crimson-colored discharge flowing from a Monroeville slaughterhouse into a nearby tributary used for farming and livestock. EPA inspected and within 2 weeks issued an order under the Clean Water Act to stop the discharge. Why did it take so long? I imagine that they had to write up the order, and number 1, number 2, they probably were waiting for sample results, which would probably take about a week for the water. That's what I'm guessing. So they have a picture here. It's a little bit freaky here, right? This is in Slaughterhouse Monroeville. EPA quickly and efficiently responded to these public complaints when the water runs red. People really take notice, and so do we. Either that or they're reenacting the movie, The 10 Commandments. I said that, right? This is a textbook example of how a community tip, state partnership, and swift federal enforcement can stop pollution in its tracks. We moved fast to shut down the discharge and protect water that farmers and families depend on. I don't think anybody's drinking for that water thing, all right? After observing an uncontrolled release of fluids from the slaughterhouse, including blood, EPA and New Jersey DEP issued an administrative order on consent to Burlington Beef outlining the facility's violations and requiring specific immediate actions, such as the construction of a 3-foot berm to stop the discharge. The facility quickly complied with the short-term requirements, ending the acute water contamination issue. EPA and New Jersey DEP are now working on a long-term cleanup plan to ensure residents and nearby communities have continued access to clean water. So, we have that. EPA Region 7 hosts farm bureaus. This is from Lenexa, Kansas. On July 1st, the U.S. EPA hosted the region's farm bureaus at the regional office in Lenexa, Kansas, to discuss topics at the intersection of agriculture and EPA regulations. Quote, last week, our leadership had the chance to hear directly from the groups that represent farmers in the heartland, said EPA Region 7 Administrator Jim Macy. Through these forums, we're building partnerships that will power the great American comeback while protecting human health and the environment. The listening session centered on EPA's statutory authorities under the Clean Water Act, Clean Air Act, and the Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, and Rodenticide Act, which I used to call in college FIFRA. That was passed like in the 1940s originally. Attendees included representatives from the Farm Bureau Federations in Iowa, and going on and on and on with that. It says Region 7 news releases. Let's see what that says. We had already covered all those stories. EPA meets with leaders of 30 tribal nations, highlights a Muskogee Creek Nation Brownsfield grant. This is from yesterday in Dallas. Today, the Pueblo of Laguna hosted officials in the U.S. EPA and leaders of tribal nations from throughout the EPA Region 6 for the Regional Tribal Operations Committee meeting. Regional Administrator Scott Mason gathered with leaders from 30 tribes to discuss a variety of environmental topics. During the meeting, R.A. Mason highlighted a recent grant of nearly $2 million to the Muskogee Creek Nation from EPA's Brownfields program for the assessment of contaminated sites. As a member of the Cherokee Nation, I understand the importance of EPA having regular and meaningful conversations with tribal leaders on environmental matters within their lands, said Regional Administrator Scott Mason. I look forward to working with our tribal leaders on protecting the water, land, and air of our nation's indigenous communities. The RTOC is a partnership between 66 federally recognized tribes in Region 6 and serves as the regional counterpart to the National Tribal Nations Committee. The purpose of RTOC meetings is to enhance the relationship between EPA and tribal nations by ensuring tribal environmental interests and concerns are addressed within their respective lands. In May, EPA announced that the Muskogee Creek Nation is being awarded to almost $2 million in Brownfield community-wide assessment grant to support assessment activities, site reuse cleaning activities, and host of community engagement and educational events. This grant was part of a nationwide Brownfield announcement to address environmental contamination and boost economic growth of local economies. Okay, and I have to get off of share and go back to the camera because we're getting a thing off of NJ.com. This is out of Mercer County. I'm not familiar with the site, but I do know where the site is, and I have passed it by. A contaminated historic site in Mercer County has been added to the Superfund National Priorities List. Stories from Nicholas Fernandez. The historic pottery site in Trenton has been added to the national list, which prioritizes, we're going to go into a little bit of what that is, which prioritizes the country's most hazardous sites, the U.S. EPA has said in a statement on Monday. The site was once home to dozens of commercial pottery operations dating back to the 1800s. These facilities commonly use lead to manufacture pottery, causing soil contamination. There's a lot of these sites out there with lead, right, that were former pottery sites, where they have, again, it was normal operation. They dumped industrial waste and with lead in it. For decades, families in East Trenton have lived with the contamination left behind by historic industrial operations, said EPA Regional Administrator Michael Bartucci. By adding this site to the national priorities list, EPA is addressing public health and risks and laying the groundwork for community revitalization and economic growth. Evaluations conducted by the agencies have found lead in the soil of residential properties. A total of 115 New Jersey sites are listed on the Superfund National Priorities List, according to the EPA website. So I have here the EPA website. Let's do a share screen. Here. So you go over, this is from epa.gov/superfund/national-list-sites-state #NJ. All right, and it takes you to the New Jersey site, but we're on the general site here with this, right? And you're able to go in the upper left-hand corner. I hope I'm describing this for the people at home listening via audio. You know, you can probably Google that site, National Priorities List Sites by State. And now, and here they give you choose a state or territory from the map below or list below. Right? And it takes you through all of the sites here. Let's go down to the one that we're talking about here in New Jersey. Here, and it scrolls you down to 115 sites. Let's pick one out. So, am I reading this right? Oh, I thought it said the Helen Keller landfill. So here here's a site that I am familiar with. The Higgins Farm and the Higgins Disposal sites in Franklin Township, New Jersey. So here we go, the site. I'm clicking on it. I haven't seen this thing in years. I was working on this site way back in the day. Here you have the Higgins Disposal, has a ranking system. Score 30.87. We're going to get into what that is. It tells you something about that site. Construction completion, 6/27/2006. Site has a partial deletion, no. Right? And let's see if we could get the bigger view here. So basically, this site had accepted waste from surrounding laboratories. I'm not going to mention the particular one, but you could go and check it out for yourself. And essentially what we did was we removed the entire landfill here. It was roughly about 1 acre here, and right, and let's see what else here. Higgins disposal site, site narrative. The Higgins disposal, and this is from the original press release. The Higgins disposal site covers 38 acres in a rural area north of Kingston, Somerset County, New Jersey. For an unknown number of years, the owner operated an unpermitted landfill and an permitted transfer station on the site. The owner of this business owns Higgins Farms, which is also proposed for NPL at this time. This is from June 24th, 1988. In 1981, as required by CERCLA, a company, you can read it for yourself, reported to the EPA that in 1974, its Princeton plant had sent chemical waste containing heavy metals, organic solvents, and pesticides to the site. In October 1982, the DEP issued an administrative order under the State Solid Waste Management Act requiring Higgins Disposal to stop accepting and disposing of solid waste. On June 26, 1986, New Jersey DEP sampled soil and water on the property. Analysis identified PCBs, tetrachloroethylene, 1,2-dichlorobenzene, bis-2-ethyl hexylphthalate in on-site soil. What's even scarier in the site and contamination is that I can actually pronounce these things. Arachlor 1248 was also detected in an on-site pond downgrading of the landfill. When full, the pond spills into Dirty Brook, makes it an even dirtier brook, which discharges into the Delaware Raritan Canal. The canal is used for boating and fishing, and freshwater wetland is 300 feet from the site. So, we'll go back on that. Site progress profile. Right, I haven't been there in close to 30 years coming up. Right, on Laurel Avenue. All right, site contacts you have Shireen Cadill from the EPA and Michael Ziolia. All right, doing a good job, I'm sure. All right, going on. What has been done? And it goes all the way. In August 1988, the PRP identified the EPA initiated a second removal action under the oversight of EPA's removal system. Right? This removal was completed in July 1999 and resulted in the excavation of 34,000 tons of contaminated material and over 16,000 containers. This is what I was involved with, e.g., laboratory glassware, plastic, and metal containers and drums from the on-site landfill. I was specifically involved with that part of the work. In September 1999, the PRP under EPA oversight completed the extension and connection of a potable water supply to residences along Laurel Avenue and the Higgins residence. And going on with that, what's the current site status? The site is being addressed in two stages: short-term cleanups or removal actions. Addressing varied waste, following short-term cleanups to protect human health and the environment. Long-term groundwater treatment and monitoring are ongoing. It goes on and on and on with this. And again, it hasn't been updated, so I think that they're just doing a wait-and-see type of situation here, which is fine, right? So that's what I'm familiar with here. Let's go back to the one from the news story. Here. Historic potteries. Right, this is from July 3rd, 2025. And let's see what we have here. This is from what the story we just shared. So you can see how things have changed as far as the narrative here. So the historic pottery site consists primarily of residential areas, the public school, and public park properties initially identified in or around the East Trenton Top Road neighborhood in the city of Trenton, Mercer County, New Jersey, although commercial and industrial properties may also be contaminated. The pottery industry was prominent in Trenton, with a major hub in East Trenton and Top Road neighborhoods. Thus, I'll say this, Trenton makes, the world takes. Right, because there's a major hub for, within 50 miles of Trenton, a good chunk of industrial stuff was there. So lead was commonly used in glazes that were subjected to high temperatures in the firing kilns, causing lead to be released into the air via the kiln exhaust and then settle onto soil downward from the kilns. Soil containing ceramic pieces was likely used as fill material during residential development and may be a source of lead contamination. In 2018, the state of New Jersey notified the EPA that the neighborhood of East Trenton was contaminated with lead, but the EPA had to conduct investigations following this notification to verify that lead was present in the soil. Right? So, again, they put it on the NPL, And there it is with that. And it also has to be in the Federal Register. There we go. There. Right, published last Thursday. I'll tell you what, a lot of crap came out in the Federal Register last week. And site progress profile. With that. Now, they give a hazard ranking here, right? Here, what is that hazard ranking? Right, here we go. Our overview here from AI. Yes, I do use AI. The national priorities list is listed the most serious, uncontrolled, or abandoned hazardous waste sites in the United States. Identified for long-term cleanup, a site score hazard ranking system is the primary way a site becomes eligible for the NPL, with sites scoring 28.5 or greater being eligible. Other methods include state or territory designation, specific health advisory criteria. So this was all on from the U.S. EPA website, federalregister.gov from 7 days ago, probably related to the site we're just talking about with this, right? Here's more detailed breakdown. Hazard ranking system. The HRS is a scoring system to assess the potential threat of a hazardous waste site proposed to human health. The HRS evaluates four pathways: groundwater, surface water, soil exposure, and subsurface intrusion and air. The site score is determined by combining the scores from these pathways. Sites with an HRS score of 28.5 or greater are generally eligible for placement on the NPL. Other ways, right, to do it. If the Agency for Toxic Substances Disease Registry, ASTR, issues a public health advisory, the EPA determines the site possesses a significant threat, the site may be added. What the NPL means, listing on the NPL signifies the EPA deems the site priority for further investigation, and the NPL helps the EPA focus its resources on the site, not where it's needed. So we're at 51 minutes after the hour. What do we got going on here? Let's see. Europe to begin stockpile. This is going to be an interesting disaster response month here, coming up in September. Disaster preparation. Europe to begin stockpiling food and medicine as World War III fears explode. The European Commission laid out a strategy on stockpiling for the first time on Wednesday, emphasizing the need to build up stocks of things like fuel, medicine, and raw materials to protect member states against major shocks. The EU should start, this is from express.co.uk, the European Union should start gathering stockpiles of food and or other critical supplies amid the threat of conflict, health crises, and natural disasters, Brussels chiefs have said. The European Commission laid out a strategy on stockpiling for the first time on Wednesday, emphasizing the need to build up stocks of things like fuel, medicine, and raw materials to protect member states against major shocks. It comes amid a horror warning from Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen that as Russia is rearming, it could pose a credible military threat to the bloc and NATO in 2 to 5 years. Right? And then, more political baloney on the bottom of that. EPA employees sweat through workplace discomfort that some worry may be more than disrepair. For the third week in a row, there have been issues with the air conditioning at the EPA headquarters, sending indoor temperatures well above 80 degrees. Pardon me. Staff members have received emails both explaining that repair efforts are underway and that the administration is trying to reduce energy consumption. Multiple elevators have malfunctioned in recent weeks, leaving EPA employees at times stuck between floors. On more than one occasion, according to sources, the elevator has dropped suddenly. One group of employees was relocated to a basement area next to the firing range where federal law enforcement officials tracked the shooting. Right? And they're worried about lead levels in the air. Career staffers have wondered among themselves whether the workplace issues are another mechanism to induce resignations or further shrink the federal workforce, according to multiple people who request in anonymity. Wow. Work on air conditioning is underway. Taylor Rogers, a White House assistant press secretary, told CBS News. Joe Biden's EPA wasted, I know what, I'm going to look up the song, maybe we lead out with it. Wasted $4 million on a one-room museum instead of required maintenance for the building because employees aren't actually required to show up to work. Trump and the EPA is working diligently on improvements to their building, which will complete long overdue maintenance to the carpet, elevators, air conditioning, and more for employees who have returned to work. An administration official said, the Trump administration is working diligently on improvements. The administration official said the elevator parts were ordered 4 months ago, but officials have been told it will take about 18 months to arrive. The GSA administration, the agency that manages and maintains federal real estate, is paying for the elevator repairs. Other improvements will be paid by the EPA funds. Wow. Right? They're saying old buildings delayed in maintenance. Oh, it could happen. Here we have from McDonald's. McDonald's fan favorite snack wrap returns this week. The beloved snack wrap makes a comeback after 9 years with spicy and ranch flavors, featuring McCrispy strips and a tortilla. Right? With that. So thank God for that one, right? And we got that. U.S. measles cases hit highest number in 33 years, according to the Centers for Disease Control. Measles cases in the U.S. have reached the highest number in more than 30 years, according to new federal data published Wednesday. There have been 1,288 confirmed cases across 38 states nationwide. This marks the highest number since 1992. So what's causing it? I won't list the states. Texas seems to be the worst. And I don't know. The rate of kindergartners, including state-required vaccinations, dropped from 95% during 2019 to 2020 to less than 93% during the right. So lower vaccination rates. I guess so. With that, I don't know. We need to do a little bit of a deeper dive on that. And we can hold off on this. We got a whole bunch of stuff from study finds here with this. I mean, I don't know. Everyone's panicking. Remember, Saul Alinsky's rule for radicals. Keep the pressure on. Multi-vectored attack. Keep everybody on edge. That's all I got for tonight. I hope to see you tomorrow. And we'll see you then. Good night.
The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the host and its guest and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the company. Examples of analysis discussed within this podcast are only examples. They should not be utilized in the real world as the only solution available, as they are based only on very limited and dated open source information. Assumptions made within this analysis are not reflective of the position of the company. No part of this podcast may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, mechanical, electronic, recording, or otherwise, without prior written permission of the creator of the podcast, Jay Allen.